I know I need to build business systems to build a business that can run without me, but I don't have any time. As someone who has now systemized over 2,000 small businesses, I hear this excuse more than any other. But the fact is, if you are running a small business that is chaos-driven, you're probably spending more time wrestling with the chaos than it would take to just prevent the chaos overall. So the question is not, how do I achieve perfection and how do I become super organized where nothing goes wrong? That's delusional. Instead, it's what are the small actions I can do during my existing work week in order to make things a little bit better than they were yesterday. I'm going to give you some tactical examples I give my clients for things you can do to improve your business, whether you have 5 minutes or 90 minutes to spare. We're going to start off with 5 minutes. So if you have just 5 minutes a day to start improving your business systems, here's one behavior you can steal: mistake tracking. In other words, when something goes wrong in the business, write it down in some central mistake tracking area. That's it. That will take you probably about 1 minute to write down one sentence. And I'm going to assume because you are in a chaos-driven state, that might happen 5 times a day, hence 5 minutes. Now, this might feel like a really silly task. Why are we doing this? Well, if we want to improve, the best thing we as adults can do is learn from our mistakes. And if we take the time to actually record the mistakes that happen, just by writing it, your brain is going to be understanding it at a different level, and you now have a central log you can check back on and prevent in the future. Now, what happens if you can carve out another 10 minutes to systemize your business? Well, here's what I would do next. I would go down to the description of this video and I would take the systemization snapshot. This is the same quiz I give our clients here at ProcessDriven, and the reason I'm telling you to go there next is because it'll help you figure out exactly where your weaknesses are when it comes to systems, so we can prioritize those in the next 15 minutes you have to spend. The most common weakness we've seen on the systemization snapshot is task management. In fact, we've now crunched the data on over 6,000 small businesses who have shared information about their operations. We've actually shared it all for free in the Small Business Operations Report you'll find in the description below. But some of the nerdy details we found out is that most small businesses do not have any way to keep track of the tasks that need to happen in your business. Assuming you're like most businesses, that probably also applies to you. So in your 15 minutes you have to systemize your business, create a shared to-do list, a spot where you can keep track of all the tasks that need to happen as one long running list for the entire team to use. Just by having things centralized and shared, you're going to be able to hold people more accountable and make sure the promises you make are actually kept. I have a whole video that deep dives on this if you want a little bit more information, but just don't count that against your 15 minutes, okay? That's optional, supplemental information. So what if at this point you're having so much fun you can carve out a whole 30 minutes to systemize your business? Well, in that case, what I'd have you do is process mapping. So for this, I want you to grab a piece of paper or a whiteboard and start outlining the most painful process in your business, the thing that if it would just work, life would be so much easier. This is often onboarding, sales, or some kind of retention activity that you do. Sometimes it's content creation too. And we want to go from start to finish of all of the actions you follow in order to bring this baby to life. So for example, if we were talking about onboarding, we might write on the left side of our whiteboard, we have a new sale. And on the right side of our whiteboard, we might write, the customer is onboarded. Now we want to say what happens to get us from left to right. Writing this down, preferably with boxes and arrows rather than text, will help us start to visualize where are things falling apart. I have a whole video on this strategy up here if you want to dive deeper into process mapping, but I do have some tips for you in this video to make sure you make the most of it. Number one, make sure you set that 30-minute timer, because I know you're super busy, right? We can't, God forbid, we spend more time on our systems than we do putting out fires. Okay, I'm sassy, but yeah, 30 minutes. I don't want you to overthink this. I want you to move quickly and not second guess yourself. The second piece I would make sure you do on this process map is make sure you focus on a process that's inside your control. A lot of times when I have very new business owners go through this process mapping exercise, they start trying to map things like, how will I get to $1 million a year? Or how will I get 10 new customers a month? And that's not something they've ever done. So they're not process mapping, they're brainstorming. And that's kind of a whole different exercise, and there are different ways to do that. Process mapping is about taking something you already do and helping you see it in a different light by writing it down. So when you are creating your process map, focus on pains that you can control, not something that is outside your purview that you're just daydreaming about. And actually, I'm going to give you a second option on this 30-minute time slot as well. Because the other thing you could do with those 30 minutes is book a discovery call here with ProcessDriven. Actually meet with one of our team to figure out if working with us could fast track your way through systemizing, because I guarantee you, working with an expert through systemizing your business is going to be so much faster than if you trial and error with other people. We have so many testimonials of clients who have had this exact experience and have wasted years doing business the hard way before they come to us. If you are in a position where you can invest a little money to save a ton of time, please consider that as well. We'll have all those links in the description. But let's move on to 45 minutes. So if you do choose to invest 45 minutes in systemizing your business in ways that will save you way more than 45 minutes in the future, setting up a project management software is the next thing I would do. A good project management software set up correctly makes all of the other stuff you need to organize so much easier to manage. I would just really remind you that the time limit for this one is 45 minutes. And most people waste 4 to 5 hours just tinkering with a software, and that is a complete waste of your time. The software you pick and how you set it up does matter a little bit, but really the core focus of having a project management software or work management software is that you have a place where the information can go. The tasks, the projects, the SOPs, the structures, the secret sauce that only you know. That's where your time should be spent. Don't spend it rearranging and color coding and adding automation. And I know it seems cute, it seems fun, it seems fancy. I have hundreds of videos on this channel showing how fun that can be. But for you, my friend, it's largely a waste of time. When you have tons of time, sure, by all means. Not now, not in our 45-minute window. Now, I love to think that by the time you're listening to this part in the video, you've already done all the other ones and you are just clawing at the bit for 60 more minutes of business systemization. Okay, I like to dream, but let's just pretend you do. And in those 60 minutes, what would I have you work on if you were my client? Well, what I would have you do is create a task template. Well, if you're a client, I'd actually create it for you, but create a task template on your own. So in 60 minutes, I want you to look at your process map. I want you to use your project management software and create a default structure of how you do that thing. Let me give you an example. If we have a process map of all the steps we do to onboard a client, I want you to create in your task tool onboarding a client template and have each step that you need to follow as either a checklist, a sub-item, a subtask, whatever it's called, as a step built into that task. That way, every time you have to onboard a new client, you just duplicate that template and there you go. You've got all of the steps outlined. If you didn't process map onboarding, you can still do this for whatever you did process map. If you processed a YouTube video, you could say YouTube video template and all the steps you have to do. If you process mapped fulfillment, you could say delivering XYZ service and all the steps you have to do. The goal is to build these default templates that you can then duplicate or create using a built-in template feature every time this event comes up, so you don't have to use your brain power to memorize which steps do I really need to do. You will find over time that refining this kind of master template is what really allows you to improve your systems over time, but it all starts with that one-time investment of setting up the structure itself. Now, speaking of progress and getting things done, the business strategists among us are probably rolling their eyes and thinking, ugh, this plebeian spending all of her time working in the weeds, when really you should be thinking about the big picture vision and strategy. I'm getting there, okay? If you have 90 minutes to systemize your business, this is where I would have you focus next. I would have you focus on key metrics. In other words, make sure the stuff that we created and defined in our previous steps actually align to the overall business objectives. Is the business winning or losing thanks to these things? That is what your key metrics are designed to tell you. The reason I'm putting this in the 90-minute category, our biggest chunk of systemization, is because it takes the most effort to think about this big picture health of your business. What are the metrics that really matter to you? How often should you measure them? Where are you going to put them? How often are you going to look at those numbers to make sure they're going in the right flow? Those are all things that add up to a little bit of time. In fact, in this video, I show you how I run my whole small business from one tab in my browser, including using a key metrics tracker template that you can just steal directly from that video. Or you could just not watch that next video and actually start systemizing your business. You can do everything I talked about in this video in about 4.5 hours. And if you're like most business owners I work with, you're going to get your time back on that investment within about a week. Get started and enjoy the process.